I guess on my hair, she looked alright. And with that actually sitting there like this frames, and I had to have them, sis. All 5 of them. Here, I just had, we're gonna discontinue it, but I had to pick up their book of shadows, honey. Color Grain makes cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Why so serious? What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Torrence here, and in today's video, I wanted to bring back some throwbacks, honey. I have a very large collection, and most times I'm buying stuff way faster than I can use it. And I promised myself that I was gonna use this palette before the year is out, and I'm not gonna let myself or y'all down. So we have this palette here, the PUR and Raw Beauty Kristi palette, honey. She's absolutely stunning. The packaging, the colors. On one side, you got neutrals, so you sit back looking like, okay, got her for everyday wear. On the other side, we got colors. Whether I want to have a fun night out or if I'm just feeling adventurous, I can go ahead and do that. The thing is, she's a pressed pigment palette and not an eyeshadow palette. Because I'm a huge fan of Raw Beauty Kristi, whether this palette is good or bad, I'm going to keep her. But whether you should add it to your collection, it's something you might want to watch to find out. But before we get into this tutorial, make sure you go back and watch my video right here. That is my Zulu tutorial, and I have a giveaway coming up. Saturday is the very last day to enter that giveaway because I will be posting the winner on Sunday. So make sure you go back and watch that video so you can enter. But before we get into this tutorial, you know I got to bring you swatches. Alright, you guys, let's get a look at the packaging here. This is a dual-sided palette. I believe this is called the Duality palette. And PUR went all out for Raw Beauty Kristi because you can see the design on one side matches the same design that is on the opposite end. So no matter which end you pick up, you're going to be good. This palette also comes with a nice mirror on both sides. So it doesn't matter if you want to go neutral or colorful, you will be able to see the look that you're creating. And I didn't want to blind you, so I did go ahead and cover that. But inside is where the magic is. On the first side, we have 9 neutral shades. There are 8 mattes, and then there's 1 shimmer in the center here. But you can see she tried to keep things neutral and add just a little flair to it. So if you don't want to just necessarily do neutral browns, you do see that we have those mauve and coral colors there. So I like that she switched things up. And once you get to the other side of this palette, you see just how colorful things get. This is absolutely beautiful. Although this can technically be considered a rainbow palette, I love how we don't have repeating shades. She didn't give us 2 blues or 2 greens or anything like that. Each shade is different and you can mix and match them to create new colors. So I'm loving this. And the fact that you have that matte white means if you want to do a matte brow bone or inner corner highlight, you don't have to reach for another palette. But this side contains 8 mattes and 1 shimmer. First up, we have swatches of the neutral side of the palette. Each color is swatched 1 time over 0 primer with a finger, and I must tell you all, I am impressed by the pigmentation. These colors are extremely soft, but they do have some powderiness to them, so I do believe that more than likely I'm going to get some kick up when I put my brush in there. But as you can see, every color was able to give me opacity on 1 swatch. I cannot wait to get into this side. And what was surprising to me was that very last shade has a slight mauve undertone to it that I didn't detect when I was just looking at it. So I'm going to make sure I give you a close-up view of these swatches before we go to the next side. And as you can see, shade number 3 has a slight pink undertone to it. It's not a pure white, it's more of an off-white. Alright, you guys, here we go with the colorful side, and I must tell you, this side is just as pigmented as the neutral side. The thing is, when I was doing swatches, shades number 6 and 8, that hot pink and that teal shade, were like extremely powdery, and I kept saying like, okay, Torrence, it's one thing to have some kick up and some staining, because I have some staining in the sink, but I'm like, this is extra. Went back, read the box again, and noticed it says that this is a pressed pigment palette, not an eyeshadow palette, so that makes much more sense. Meaning you're going to get a lot more color, but it will be a little harder to blend. And I'm prepared for that, so I know that, but if that's something you did not know, it may take you off guard. But before we get started, I want to make sure I give you a closer view of these swatches. And as you can see, The opacity on these are beautiful. That center shimmery shade has much more of a pink to silver color to it. And that white is a nice pure white, honey. She doesn't have any pink or blue or anything to her. She is beautiful. But the one thing you are going to want to do is do your eyes first with this, because with this being a pressed pigment palette, you may get some staining. See, yeah, honey, I can tell I have not been feeling good lately. Leg been bothering me, been stressed out. Very important day is coming up. But I had to make sure I got this out for you all, and I'm not gonna lie. During swatches, I was completely thrown off to realize this is a pressed pigment palette instead of an eyeshadow palette. So now I'm sitting back like, Torrence, you've been doing a whole lot of colorful looks, especially greens. So how about we go ahead and keep it neutral? Didn't even realize I had an orange shirt on today, so I'm like, you know what? Go ahead and play with some of them orange shades. Normally I would be trying to avoid them, but we're gonna go ahead and get into them today. Y'all already see. We got 9 shades on this side. 8 of them are matte, but I'm not gonna try to use them all. I just want to go in, get myself a nice look, because I want to make sure I keep content out for you all. And I done lost my brush head fast. So we're gonna start things off with our largest, fluffiest blending brush. We're gonna go into shade number 1 here, this bright yellow. It's called Camelot, and we're gonna use this as a transition shade. And yeah, honey, ain't no point of lying. Just looking at the amount of kick up in here, you can truly tell this is a pressed pigment palette. The thing is, I also did not realize until I did my swatches that these pans appear to be removable, because when I was going in for my swatches, I kept noticing the pans were swirling, and it made it a little more difficult to get an actual swatch going. But I'm like, oh, instead of having 2 different palettes on each side, I mean 1 palette on each side and having 2 different palettes, I may be able to go ahead and find me an empty magnetic palette and bring those together. But as you can see, honey, there was fallout, but it appears to have just dusted away, because there is going to be kick up and fly away, honey. This is a pigment palette, so 1, you're going to have to go in a little bit more to get a softer blend. This isn't going to be nice and creamy, and you may get more fallout than your traditional eyeshadow. This here is just that first layer. I wanted to see exactly how she blended out and how much color we can get. To me, it appears on camera you're getting a little more, you know, shock of color and more opacity than what I'm seeing right here in person. So I want to try to go in the pan, dip extremely lightly just to pick up the kick up that was in the pan, and see what this is going to do for a second layer. I want to blend slow at first just to try to get that pigment to adhere, and then start to move a little quickly. I said a little quickly. Move a little quicker to diffuse the edges. It appears that's giving me a little more opacity, but this isn't going to be my new favorite yellow. I can just look at this now and tell you it should take a little longer to blend than my favorite yellows. And she's not giving me the opacity I want, but she isn't giving me any patchiness, so that's a good thing. I am seeing some fallout there, but because I have a yellow undertone to my skin, it's a little harder to see. I think if you have much more of a pink undertone, that'll be much more noticeable. But she's a pretty transition shade, nothing to complain about. Like I said, I personally would just like a little more opacity, but she gonna get the job done for sure today. Be right back. Now it's time to warm things up. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of orange shades, we're gonna try this one out today. This one here is shade number 8. It's called Told You, and I'm gonna use this in the crease with a smaller blending brush. And I'm here to tell you all, this shade Told You is powdery as well, but it's not as much kick up as that first shade Camelot. So I've loaded up my brush, and I don't want to knock anything off because I want to see just how much kick up I'm going to get and how much opacity. So we're going to start off low in the crease, and baby, this color already starts off with much more opacity. You see that already, honey. Oh, I'm not even sure if I'm going to have to go in with a second layer with this color. I think I might have underestimated it. He said, honey, I ain't Camelot. Ooh-wee, baby, look at that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, just build her up in the lower crease. And once we're confident that we have most of the product off our brush, we're going to go ahead and raise it up and diffuse those edges. Oh yeah. Told you it was a whole lot better than Camelot, honey. far as I'm concerned, we don't even need to go in with a second layer because that is beautiful. Just gonna make sure the edges are diffused. You can still see that first shade Camelot peeking through. Okay, yeah, that's good enough. I don't want to do a second layer of that. I want to make sure that my next color has something to go ahead and deepen up. Actually, no. We're going to go ahead and do it just because we here and y'all don't know what it's like and neither do I. What I'm going to do is knock off all the excess. I just want to see, is this color buildable as well? Because knowing that you're blendable and pigmented is one thing. And although I'm seeing some extra pigmentation coming through, honestly, I don't think we even had to go ahead and do that. But I just wanted to see if she's buildable. So she builds on top of other colors beautifully. On top of herself, not quite as much. You're going to get what you're going to get on that first layer as far as I'm concerned. But she's not giving me no patchiness or anything like that. So I'll be right back. We're going to do this on the other side. Now for the last step in our crease, we want to go into this shade here, B. This is shade number 7. It's a matte dark brown, and we're going to use that to give our crease a little more depth. I have hooded eyes and I want to do a cut crease, so I always like to make sure that the lowest part of my crease is always the darkest. Alright, and it seems like things have gotten even better. With this shade B, it is the darkest brown we're going to use today. It has the least amount of kick up, so I'm hoping it's just as pigmented as that shade told you was. We're going to start off on the outer end. I loaded my brush and didn't knock anything off because I want to see just how much pigmentation we're going to get. This shade here is definitely coming up darker. You can see how that lowest part of the crease is coming out, baby. That's what I be needing. And this shade is almost so dark that honestly, I can see why she didn't even add a black. This shade comes off a little darker on the skin than it does in the pan, which normally would be a bad thing, but considering I love a matte black, I'm loving this. I'm not getting any patchiness, but because this is a pigment, it is taking a little longer to blend out. I want to go ahead and raise my brush now and diffuse the edges. I personally will be going in with a second layer just to see what the just to see how buildable it is. But yeah, honey, I'm loving that color there. With the normal eyeshadow, I think I would have already had soft and diffused edges. But for pigment, she ain't bad, honey. Look at how much more depth and dimension I have on this eye than I do on that side. Oh yeah. I'm gonna try to pick up that kick up. And this time we're going for the second layer. We're gonna knock off the excess because we already have most of the color there. Then we're just gonna start off low again, build up that color. And I find that you get more pigmentation on the second layer. So I would say that this shade here, B, is much more buildable than Told You, but Told You is much more blendable. I'm loving this color in my deep crease, baby, yes. I'm telling y'all, the only thing that comes up there close, she ain't quite with it, that black smoky eye is my favorite, but a brown one, she right behind it. If I wasn't doing a tutorial, on a fast, easy makeup day, a brown smoky eye is an easy way to get in and out the house. But I want to make sure all of this is beautiful because we're going to come in and cut our crease later on. And you already know, Raw Beauty Kristi don't play about her cut creases. So I ain't about to put this, on my eye and disappoint her. So I'll be right back after I do this other side. Alright, now that we have our crease done, I want to go ahead and do a halo eye. I love when Raw Beauty Kristi does them. So we're going to take our NYX glitter primer. Going to use this on the back of our hands just because I find it's the fastest way to clean up afterwards. And I'm going to use my Morphe M421 brush just because she's real tiny. And I'm going to go in and cut my crease all the way from the front to the back end. And I'm going to take it up real high, honey, because I love getting as much space as possible for my lids. I have hooded eyes, so a lot of times the skin will hang down and try to take away all that beautiful looking space that I thought I had. So what we do is we go in and we cut our crease higher than what it naturally is. Baby, I might only naturally have so much space, but we're going to go ahead and add some more. All the money you pay for eyeshadow, honey, you want to use it all. And I like to get down close to the lash line because I have such full lashes that I will skip that area, and it's not until after I'm done that I see my brown skin peeking through under like a green or a gold shadow. And you're like, wait a minute, how you didn't see that, Torrence? And we're just gonna cut this up real high. I just press my brush deep into the socket and let it go up as high as it can, and once I'm through, I just clean up and make the edges more rounded. Alright, be back after I do this on the other side. Now that we've cut our crease, we have to go back in and deepen up our inner and outer V. So we're going to start off with our smaller blending brush, and we're going to go into this shade Camelot first, and then we're going to go back in and deepen things up with the shade B. And honey, it wasn't until I got ready to do this that I realized Camelot was the transition shade. We want to go in with that shade Told You, which was the crease shade. I've loaded my brush on one side, and what I like to do is just start as far out as possible and just press that in. And I usually like to try to get one brush width in first and then see if I want to go any darker than that. I meant any further, not any darker. And I try to press it into what is already looking like that halo shape, where it's at an angle, more than likely like a 45-degree angle. And you want to cover the complete inside and outside. You want to make sure there are no patchy areas or anything like that, because by pressing this first shade in now, it's going to absorb all of that pigment. Then when we go in with our darker shade, it'll be easier to blend on top of it. So you can see how it's pointed. It looks more like a spotlight, which is another way to say a halo eye. So we're going to do that on this side, and I'll be right back. Now we have our smallest blending brush in that shade B. We're going to take this and you're going to press it on the outer end, and you're going to sweep it closer to the center, but you don't want to actually cover up all of that orange shade from Told You. You want there to be a transition where it looks like the outermost point is the darkest point of the eye. And you do the same thing here on the inside. You start from the inner and work your way toward the center without covering everything. You just want to blend up towards it. And you can see how she's really dark brown right here, but then you can still see that orange there. Then we're going to put a shimmer color in the middle. And right now things don't look blended because I can see that straight line between the two, but all you have to do is keep going back and softening that edge up, and then we're going to diffuse the edges later after we put our shimmer on top. Now it's time to cover our lids with a little bit of shimmer, and for that we're going to go into this shade here, Golden Ticket. It's going to cover the entire center of the lid. And with this color, I recommend you either use your finger or a really natural hair brush, because I found it was a little difficult to pick up product. I love this brush because she isn't the softest in the world. I wouldn't say she's scratchy, but you can definitely tell the difference. But she picks up shimmers like no other. And although this color may have been a little difficult to pick up, you can see she goes on the eye very easily. Full pigmentation in one layer, honey. I didn't have to double dip or anything, but we're going to go ahead and try it just to see what she come out looking like. Okay, yeah, I think you get full opacity in one layer, so that's a good thing with this color. Be right back after I do it on the other side. Now, the last step on the top of our list that we want to do is go in with our smallest blending brush and our darkest shade B, and we want to buff that into the crease. This is going to help us blend out that darkest color on the inner and outer V, as well as soften up the edges of that cut crease. I'm going to take this and just load your brush up if you want and dust everything off, and then I just go to the highest point and rock back and forth to help bring everything together and connect. That way that dark harsh line we had in the front and the back of our eye isn't all going to sit there like that. And you can see how much more softer and blended this is on this side. I'm going to go in one more time. Then do Just a little more building on the inside and the outside. All right, be right back. Gonna do this on the other side. Now that I've finished that, I want to just make sure that everything is as even as possible before we go any further, because I'm noticing I have a little more on the outside over here than I do over here. So what I'm gonna do is go in and take just my Morphe M421 brush. It should still have product on it. So what you wanna do is just rub it back and forth on the back of your hand. And then what you can do is go back over any area that you feel as if needs a little more product. So right here on the inner part of my eye, I want a little more shimmer right there. And on the outer end here, I want a little more matte. So I'm gonna cover those areas with a little more of my glitter adhesive. And for this area right here where I want a little more shimmer, I'm just gonna grab that brush and place just the tiniest bit here. Just to help widen the eye on that end. And then on this brush, I'm gonna grab my Camelot matte and help cover just a little bit of that just to bring it in. Things don't have to be perfect, but I want things to just be a little more evenly matched, so we're not gonna worry about that. We're gonna cut away, finish off the face, and when I come back, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna finish off the eyes. Honey, I know y'all are sick and tired of me saying I don't like the color orange or blue, and then popping up with combinations like this. I know y'all like them, so I'm always trying to try them. And today I actually used a lot of things in my collection that I normally don't use, things that were first time uses. So let's go ahead and get into it. First up, we're gonna pull out from Fenty Beauty. This is the Kilowatt Foil Freestyle Highlighter Duo. This is in Mimosa Sunrise and Sangria Sunset. A few years ago, they did 3 different duos, and that was when I was purchasing literally everything that Fenty Beauty came out with. So I have this duo here. Woo, baby. All these years, and look, now I got a gouge in it. Nail just went straight through it or whatever. The thing is, this shade here, Mimosa Sunrise, she's cute, but she's better as an eyeshadow than she is as a blush. I've used it as eyeshadows on other people, but today I wanted to try it on my skin tone. And as you can see, you see something yellow there, but nothing much, which is why I didn't see that she gave me enough color. And I'm like, Torrence, we going for orange, you need to add a little bit more. So then I wanted to go in with a highlighter, but I'm like, I know that this color isn't my shade. I personally wear Prosecco Pop, but I wanted to go in with this shade here, Topaz, because I know it has much more of an orange tone to it. But once again, when you look at my cheek here, you can see there is some glow, but it's not giving me what I need because this is darker than my complexion. My shade would normally be Prosecco Pop here. And you can see how much lighter Prosecco Pop is over Topaz. So even though they are both beautiful, this is the color I need to be wearing just to give me that extra layer of glow right there. And so we're gonna go ahead and put that on in a second for lips, because I was already on Fenty Beauty using things that are orange that I've never tried before. I wanted to go in with their Mademoiselle Plush Matte Lipstick in the shade Saucy. This was an orange lipstick, and honey, I bought it simply because when they first launched, I bought every lipstick. Never used it. Today was the very first time, and this, you can see, is just as orange as this shirt, honey. I needed something to tone her down, so I went in with the lip liner because she was way too vivid, way too bright. So I'm wearing my straight up liner by the Lip Bar. Beautiful. I was gonna go in with something a little darker and a little more brown, but I figured something with a slight red undertone and help accentuate this orange. And baby, I ain't gonna lie, I couldn't wear her every day, but she is cute. I'm not gonna deny her that. So I'm like, okay, Torrence, we got enough orange going on, honey. Orange ain't my color. They're gonna have to take this. And I want to go in and finish off the eyes first before we go in and use our highlighter, because I've already used the lightest shade in this palette for the center of my lid here. More than likely, my face highlighter is gonna have to go in the inner corner in the brows, and we can do that with the cheek as well. And because we want depth and dimension on the lower half of our lids, we're going to start off with this shade here, Camelot, and we're going to use this with our largest pencil brush. Before we buff this color out on the lower lash line, I almost forgot to tell you, we are also wearing the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade Demolition. Needed a dark brown because I figured black would be a little too much, but because I already know this shade is powdery and she gonna need a little bit of buffing and blending, I'm just gonna load this brush up. Just knock off a little bit of that, and we're gonna start on the outer half. This is gonna truly just be a transition shade. I know she won't give me full opacity, so I'm not expecting that, but we will be using her to diffuse the edges of that outer V on the top. Because we want a soft blend that connects. And just like with the top, I did expect to go in with a second layer, but she appears to be nice and blending beautifully on the bottom. I think I'm getting a little more opacity on the bottom than I was on the top. And now that I'm satisfied with what we have going on there, that yellow is popping. I can see her here in person. I don't think that's showing up on camera, but we're gonna do this on the other side, and then I'll be back to show you what shade we're gonna use next. Now that we have our transition shade Camelot down, we're gonna go in and deepen things up with this shade here, Told You, and a smaller pencil brush. And just like Camelot, we're gonna start on the outer V. We wanna build things up, and this is when the color is gonna start to show up, honey. I am not the biggest fan of orange-based shades, but I am telling you, this shade here, Told You, is so pigmented, so blendable, you can't do anything but love her. I want to go in with the second layer just to see if she's going to give me more pigmentation. You want to connect that to the outer end here. Don't want a gap. And that is it. I'm telling you, I love how fast this shade blends. Now to accentuate our lashes, we're going to take a push liner brush and our darkest shade B, and we're going to use that on the lower lash line. Alrighty, now this is where you got to be careful because this brush is so teeny tiny, honey. You want to buff and blend all the way over. I am someone who tends to have to dip more than once, no matter how pigmented a color is, because I have really large eyes. And this is where you want to take your time, honey. When you got a brush this small and carrying colors this dark, you do not want to risk putting it in the wrong spot. And I have to always go back in and make sure I connect this outer V right here. We don't want there to be a gap. Bam. And you can see how this side has just a little more depth and dimension than this side. With hooded eyes, you can never tell me I have too many crease shades. I love making things a little bit deeper and a little bit darker. Be right back. Now to finish this look off, I want to highlight my inner corner and my brows. I also need to go in and add a little more to the face, so I'm going to be using this shade here, Prosecco Pop. I just wanted to show you all what this shade looks like, but because this one is still brand new, I'm going to put this one to the side and use my older one. You already know the deal. Brush is jam-packed with product because I like my inner corner to beam, sis. I want it to beam from the moon, the stars, and the planets far away, honey. Go in and dip and give me a little bit more for this side. And even though we are highlighting our inner eye corner, we want to make sure there's still that slight gap between that highlight and that center shade. I want that dark spot right there in between to stick out so that our halo eye still shines just as bright as she normally would. If that was to connect, that could take away some of that shine in the center of the eyelid. Then we're going to take what's left on the brush and just sweep it right underneath the arch of the eyebrow. I said eye, it's the eyebrow. And because we're wearing such darker colors, I don't mind it being a little stronger right there, contrasting with those browns we got going on. Should just make her pop a little bit more. And just so you all can see exactly what I'm talking about, on this side I already have topaz, but I want you to see just what it looks like when I go in with my regular color on the cheek. If I just put just a little bit right there, all of a sudden you can see a little more of a glow. It's going to be a little bit harder to build up because I already have that darker shade there. So I want to start off with just very small motions right here, just so you can see a slight lift in that color, because I don't want to cover up this yellow that I initially put down, well, the orange from the Mimosa Sunrise, but I still need up here to be a little brighter than all the rest. Okay, and this I can work with, honey. It gives me a little more light at the top where I can see an actual cheekbone. Because I'm like, if I'm going to take the time to carve out a cheekbone, I need to put a little highlighter there too so you can see her, honey. I know I didn't gain weight, but that don't mean I can't be sculpted too. Alright you guys, it's time to set everything. So grab your sprays because you know I'm about to grab mine. Fix Plus to give us a glowy dew. All nighter so things last all day. Cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Gonna give this a few more seconds to dry and I'll be back to give you all my final thoughts. And this is the final look. I want to go ahead and give you all a full face view of things before I give you all my final thoughts. And I'm here to tell you, honey, she's nice and pretty. The thing is, I'm not sure this palette is for everybody. First off, it's a pretty good chance if you already don't have it, you may not get it. If you all remember, I posted a video about 12 older palettes that I wanted to use in 2021. I'll make sure I leave that video linked right here above. And this palette, I believe, sold out completely the first time. They brought it back for a restock and then it sold out again. So many people may already have it in their collection and maybe using it and maybe looking for inspiration for the palette. And that's why I wanted to do this tutorial. And for me, she's nice, she's pretty. The thing is, when I look at the fact that this is a pigment palette and not an eyeshadow palette, the average everyday makeup lover is going to have a little more trouble with her. It takes a little more building, a little more blending to get a flawless look. And for most people, it's just not going to be worth it. I got this truly to support Raw Beauty Kristi, and it is a beautiful palette, but I would be lying to you all if I said this is like my absolute favorite neutral palette or even my favorite collab with Raw Beauty Kristi, because she has another collab with Colourpop, and to me that palette has, I would say, an easier blend on it, so more people would have an easier time with it. Now the thing is, I have only used the neutral side, so this is the only side I can judge, but usually with pigments, to me I find that the colors give you a lot more pigmentation, but neutrals give you an easier blend. So when I go in with this side, something's telling me that I'm gonna have to put a little more flick of the wrist to get my edges to blend out. But when you look at this here, she's nice and beautiful, and I'm happy I have her. But if I had to, you know, truly be honest with myself and say, Torrence, would you recommend somebody else go out and purchase this? I'm gonna have to say no. The main reason to get this palette is truly to support Raw Beauty Kristi. When you look at some of the eye looks she's come up with, you can tell she has amazing talent, which is why it would be easy for her. But I think the average everyday makeup lover would just prefer a genuine eyeshadow instead of a pigment. But the packaging, the color story, the look that you can come up with, she's beautiful. I didn't touch any of the mauve shades or that coral shade, so I know if I were to try something else, I can get a completely different look. But I think it's this look overall as a whole that makes this beautiful. The fact that I have an orange lip to go with it, she's beautiful. The orange shirt, it brings it all together, but I don't see this palette by itself being worth it. If you missed out on it and you're sitting back and you're going, oh, you know, maybe somebody is selling it secondhand and I really want to get it, maybe the brand is going to put it back out. Once again, if you truly want to support Kristi, I believe that is the main reason to get it. If you're just going after an easy, beautiful, everyday, I can use it any time of the year because it has a neutral side and a colorful side, I really believe there are other formulas out there that you would enjoy more. Other than that, honey, I'm going to say she's pretty. You see, the pigment is there. I don't have any patchiness. I put everything down and you saw how it started off with harsh lines, but after you blend things out and spray things down, I knew they would soften up, and they really have, so I'm loving it. Also, Fenty Beauty. I understand that right now, I don't know if y'all reformulated, y'all discontinued or what, but if y'all gonna redo y'all lipsticks and y'all not gonna bring back the Mademoiselles, this shade here, Saucy, is actually kind of cute. I ain't gonna lie, I've been sitting back going back and forth like, Torrence, This lip combo is pretty, and I already know everybody is going to be on my head about the fact that I use a discontinued lipstick and a permanent lip liner. My subscribers, y'all gonna love it. My family and friends gonna be sitting back like, how you gonna do that and post pictures? And honey, you should have grabbed Saucy when I did. It was available to the public, honey. I got mad from Sephora. You could have done the same. But with nothing else, honey, I hope you all truly did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Also, while there is still time, you want to make sure you hit up this video right here. This is my flood update video. It is getting very close to the cutoff date where you can submit questions to ask me anything about my personal life or my career. I'm going to be doing a Q&A video. I truly believe I'm going to record that video either Saturday night or Sunday morning, and you all will have it by, if not Monday, I'll say Wednesday. The thing is, all next week is going to be a very busy week. I'm going to have the giveaway winner announced. I'm going to be doing my updated foundation routine as well as that Q&A video. And I haven't picked out exactly which order I'm going to do, but expect those 3 videos next week. I can't think of anything else. I'm looking around like, Torrence, do you see anything you missing? Only thing I got to do is cut this video off and wash these brushes. And I'm telling y'all, honey, getting the beats together be so much fun. It's when you throw and you realize you done made a true mess, honey. I'm looking at all these brushes that got to be cleaned. I'm looking at all the makeup that got to be disinfected because, honey, I am somebody, you got to spray your brushes and everything down after every use. This, even though I only used it once, so it's officially, she off the list. This is palette number 2 of 12, honey. I got 10 more to go. And even though I've only used one side, got to spray her down with alcohol on both sides, sit her out to dry before I put her back because I like to extend the shelf life of my makeup. I know the average person just use theirs and put them up, but when you used to freelancing, you used to disinfecting everything every time, and I want to get that done before I go to bed. And I've been blabbing long enough, so with nothing else, I hope you all remember to practice, continue to stay blessed, and until next time, goodbye YouTube.